Hello, children. Today we are going to read the third lesson of your supplementary reader book, and the name of the lesson is The Selfish Giant. Okay, so selfish means you know this word. In Hindi, you will say that the person who means लालच है या फिर अपने ही बारे में जो सोचता है. Okay, so the giant is a very big person. Giant means a very big person. So today the name of the lesson is The Selfish Giant. Now, first I'm going to start with the first uh, chapter, or you can say the first part of your lesson. The giants, this is a brief description of the first part. The giant's garden was beautiful and children loved to play in it. Now, there used to live a giant, and his garden was very beautiful and the children loved to play in it. The giant, who was selfish, built a high wall around his lovely garden. Now, why did this giant build such a big wall around his garden? So that he did not wanted the children to come and play in that garden. He was such a selfish person that he did not allow any children to play in his garden and spoil it. Children did not enter the garden thereafter. Now, after that, when he built the big garden wall, nobody entered that garden after that. Nor did spring and summer, till the giant experienced a change of heart. Now, not a single child entered his garden. Even the spring season, even the summer season did not go inside the giant's garden. And the giant experienced a change of heart. And how did he experience this change of heart? Let's find out. Okay, children? Now, I'll just continue with this lesson. Even every afternoon, as they were coming from school, the children used to go and play in the giant's garden. Now, every morning, as in every afternoon, after the children used to come back from the school, they used to go and play in the giant's garden. Now, how was that garden? It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass. So the garden was fantastic. Here and there, over the grass, stood beautiful flowers like stars, and there were 12 peach trees that in the springtime broke out into delicate blossoms of pink and pearl, and in the autumn bore rich fruits. Now, during this period, the garden was so nice that in the grass they used to see beautiful flowers which looked like stars, and there were also 12 peach. Peach means it's a fruit, isn't it? You must have heard about it, peach color, and that is where the peach color came from. That is from peach trees, because the fruits of these trees look pink and just like a pearl. And in the autumn season, now these used to blossom. Blossom means they start used to flower during the springtime, and in the autumn season, the fruits used to start. The birds sat on the trees and sang so sweetly that the children used to stop their games in order to listen to them. How happy we are here, they cried to each other. The birds which used to sit on those peach trees, they were very happy, and they used to sing so sweetly that the children who used to stop there on and off to listen to the music of the birds. Now they were very happy with it, with each other. That means the birds used to sing, the children used to listen. Both the birds as well as the children, they were very happy. One day, the giant came back. He had been to visit his friend, the Cornish ogre, and had stayed with him for 7 years. When he arrived, he saw the children playing in the garden. Now, one day, what happened? The giant came back. He had gone to visit his friend. Now, who was his friend? The Cornish ogre. So, when he returned back, he saw that the children were all playing in that garden. He got very angry. Now, after how many years did he come back? He came back after 7 years. So, in the meantime, the children as well as the flowers, the nature, the birds, they were all happy to play together. "What are you doing here?" he cried in a very gruff voice, and the children ran away. Very gruff voice means very rough voice. Now the giant shouted at them in a very rough voice and asked them, "What are you doing here?" Here, this in the next page, can you see the big ogre? He's such a big giant, isn't it? So, see the small children. Now, as soon as this giant shouted at them, the children started running here and there. Okay? Now, we'll start with the lesson. Okay? Now, "My own garden is my own garden," said the giant. "Anyone can understand that, and I will allow nobody to play in it but myself." So he built a high wall all around it and put up a notice board. Now, what happened? The giant, he shouted at the children and say, "This is my garden, and nobody is allowed to play in it, only myself. That means only I will play, I will enjoy the beauty of my garden, and nobody else will come inside my garden. Now, trespassers will be prosecuted." Now, what did the giant do? He built such a big wall around his garden so that no child can enter it. And he also put a notice board which read, "Trespassers will be prosecuted." That means trespassers means those who are going to enter, those who are going to come inside the garden will be punished. He was a very selfish giant, that everybody knows. Now that is the reason why he put this notice, isn't it? The poor children had now nowhere to play. They had nowhere else to play. They tried to play on the road, but the road was very dusty and full of hard stones, and they did not like it. Naturally, would you like to play, you children, would you like to play in the roads or in the main road or in the streets where it is very dusty and full of big hard stones, and also where the traffic is lot of traffic is there? No, I hope. They used to, the children used to wander round the high walls when their lessons were over and talk about the beautiful garden inside. "How happy we were there," they said to each other. Now, after the school used to finish, they used to return back. While they were coming back home, they used to stand near the wall of that garden, and they used to be very sad and tell each other how happy they were when they used to play in that garden. Then the spring season came, and all over the country there were little blossoms and little birds. Only in the garden of the selfish giant, it was still winter. Now see the change. During the spring season, then spring season came. Now when the spring season came, the whole country, the whole area was filled with blossoms, means flowers, and there were many small birds who were playing there. Now only in the garden of that selfish giant, it was still winter season. Now, why was it like that? Because he was a selfish person. So the spring and also the winter, the spring as well as the summers, they did not enter. That means they, in this lesson, the summer as well as the spring are being represented as if they are human beings. So they also did not like to enter the selfish giant's garden. The birds, they also refused to go. The birds did not care to sing in it, as there was no, just a minute. And there were no children. And the trees also forgot to blossom. Trees also forgot to blossom means the trees also refused to bear any flowers. So इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि जब वो बच्चे नहीं थे, birds नहीं थे, and because of all these reason, the trees also became very sad, and they also so sad they forgot to blossom. They forgot to bear any flowers. Once a beautiful flower put its head out from the grass, but when it saw the notice board, it was so sorry for the children that it slipped back into the ground again and went off to sleep. Now what happened? Say, once what happened? A small beautiful flower, it slowly came out from the grass. Okay, and from that grass, it started peeping here and there. When it saw the notice board, what was the notice board? Trespassers will be prosecuted. Trespassers means whoever comes inside the garden will be punished. Now, as soon as this little beautiful flower saw that, he realized that children are not allowed, and so was sorry for the children. And the flower became so sad that it slipped back into the ground again and went off to sleep. The only people who were pleased were the snow and the frost. Now, the only people who were very happy, they were the snow and the frost. Now, snow and the frost are considered to be heartless. They are very rough. They create, we in summer season, we are happy when we go outside and sit in the sun. Nobody likes winter. So, in this garden, spring refused, the summer refused, and who was very happy? The snow and the frost. Spring has forgotten this garden. They cried, so we will live here all the year round. Now the frost and the snow were very happy, and they said, now since the spring and the summer have forgotten this garden, now we will have the whole garden for the whole year round. The snow covered up the grass with her great white cloak, and the frost painted all the trees silver. अब ये देखिए क्या हुआ. Now grass, it was covered with snow. And how was it covered? Just like a clock. What is the meaning of clock? Clock means shawl, आप कह सकते हो. So it was all covered like a shawl, white colored shawl over the grass. And what happened? The frost. Now frost is also a very hard ice. What is frost? It is a hard ice. Now this frost painted means उसके ऊपर भी उन्होंने cover कर लिया. So the frost painted all over the tree. And how was that paint? How was the covering of the frost? It was looking silver in color. Then they invited the north wind to stay with them, and he came. Now, what happens during the winter season? you find very cold winds, isn't it? We find cold winds coming. So, cold wind आता कहाँ से है? It comes from the north side. So, the frost as well as the snow, they invited the north wind to stay with them, and also he came. He was wrapped in furs, and he rode all day about the garden and blew the chimney pots down. Now, chimney pots means जहाँ पर आग वगैरह लगते हैं ना, टू वार्म देमसेल्व्स, और जहाँ से घर के अंदर जब खाना बनता है, देन द चिमनी हेल्प्स इन रिमूविंग द हॉट वेपर फ्रॉम द हाउस. सो व्हाट हैपेंड, द स्नो विंड जो है, जो नॉर्थ विंड जो है, इट रैप्ड अप ऑल द विथ फर, पूरे से ठंडी हवा से भर दिया, एंड इट यूज टू रोर. आपने आवाज सुनी होगी कभी कभी, जब हवा चलती है तो कैसे रोरिंग आवाज आती है कि नहीं? सो द नॉर्थ विंड ऑल्सो वॉज रोरिंग ऑल डे अबाउट द गार्डन. इट यूज टू गिव ओनली एंड ओनली cold air, and it also blew mean बुझा देता, it also blew the chimney pots down. Down means it used to make them very cold. Okay, then this is a delightful spot, he said. We must ask hail on a visit. Now, this all the cold things. What were the cold things? The snow, the frost, the north wind, they were all related with cold, isn't it? So they were very happy. They were very delightful of that garden. And they said, now we must invite the hail. Hail is also a snow. Hailstorm, हमने सुना होगा. So that is ice. So we'll also call the hail on a visit. So the hail also came there. Now what happened? Every day for 3 hours, he rattled on the roof of the castle till he broke most of the slates. Now, आपने भी देखा होगा, बर्फ गिर रही है, बारिश के साथ बर्फ गिरती है ना अपने भिलाई में भी कभी कभी. So that is the hail. That is called hail. Now, hail came and it was very happy. Now, every day, ये हेल क्या करती थी? कंटिन्यूअसली फॉर 3 hours इट रैटल्ड ऑन द कैसल. द जाइंट के जो कैसल थे उसके ऊपर रोज गिरती थी कंटिन्यूअसली फॉर 3 hours. नाउ अंटिल हाउ लॉन्ग? Till he broke most of the slates, and then he ran round and round in the garden as fast as he could go. Now they were playing. The snow, the hail, the frost, the north wind, they used to play together, and the whole castle of the giant became so cold. Now how was this hail? He was dressed in grey, and his breath was like ice. अब जो वहां पर सब जगह पूरा का पूरा it was covered with hail, and it was falling just like a ice on the castle. Now, what is the giant saying? I can't understand why the spring is so late in coming, said the selfish giant as he sat at the window and looked out at his cold white garden. Now, giant है तो क्या हुआ? ठंड तो उसे भी लग रही थी. So, what did he say? What did he say? It said, why this year the spring season and the summer season, why are they late in coming? लेकिन selfish giant, he did not understand why they are not coming inside the garden. So as every time he used to sit beside the window and look out at his cold white garden. I hope there will be a change in the weather. Now he used to say, काश थोड़े दिन में जल्दी जल्दी ये चेंज हो जाना चाहिए. Now the giant also wanted to have the spring season as well as the summer season. But the spring never came, nor the summer. The autumn gave golden fruit in every garden, but to the giant's garden she gave none. Means spring season or summer season, he came inside the every person's garden of that place, but not in the selfish giant's place. Why? Because na, trespassers will not be prosecuted because the children were not allowed to come and play inside the garden. So they also refused to come into the garden. He's too selfish, she said. So it was always winter there, and the north wind and the hail and the frost and the snow, they were so happy and danced about through the trees. They were very happy. Now why were they happy? अब तो कोई समर नहीं आ रही, अब उनको पिघलने की जरूरत नहीं है, अब उनको कहीं जाने की भी जरूरत नहीं है. So naturally they will be very happy, isn't it? Now, one morning, what happened? One morning, the giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. एक बार जाइंट जो है अपने बेड पे बड़े आराम से सोया हुआ था. At that time, he heard some very lovely music. It sounded so sweet to his ears that he thought it must be the king's musicians passing by. Now, the giant thought the music must be because there must be some king's musicians who were passing by the castle of the giant, and he could hear that lovely, sweet music. It was really only a little linnet singing outside his window. But it was so long since he had heard a bird singing in his garden that it seemed to him to be the most beautiful music in the world. Now, Giant realized that it was such a beautiful music that it was a long time he had heard, because it was winter season in the giant's garden, and whereas it was summer season in the other people's garden. But he was not listening because he had built such a big wall, he could not see outside. So he thought it was a long time he had heard that wonderful music, and the music felt very sweet and very nice to his ears. Okay. Then the hail stopped dancing over his head, and the north winds eased roaring, and a delicious perfume came to him through the open casement. Now what happened? आवाज इतनी अच्छी थी, इतनी sweet थी, that what happened? The hail and the north wind, they stopped their movements, they stopped their work, and they were also started listening. And from as soon as the hail and the north wind, they stopped their dance, what happened? The giant could smell a very delicious perfume, and it came through the open casement. What is the meaning of casement? It is the opening of the windows where the hinges are there. There is slight gap is there in the windows because of the hinges, that the smell of the delicious perfume came inside the castle. I believe the spring has come at last, said the giant, and he jumped out of the bed and looked out. Now, when he smelled such a beautiful and delicious perfume, he thought that the spring season has come at last. But, was it so? No, it was not so. The giant, he immediately jumped out of his bed and looked out of his house.